So JD Vance was in Munich for a security conference the other day, and boy, does my dude know how to get these Europeans riled up.
This week, Vice President JD Vance stunned leaders in Europe, questioning whether their values warranted defense by the United States. Vance spoke in Munich, painting a picture of European politics infected by media censorship and political correctness.
The vice president's speech was a broadside aimed at European leaders who just weren't expecting it, especially Germany's. It's not only hosting the conference, but will be heading into national elections next week.
And Trump actually backed JD Vance up.
I heard his speech, and he talked about freedom of speech, and I think it's true in Europe. It's losing. They're losing their wonderful right of freedom of speech. I see it. I mean, I thought he made a very good speech, actually, a very brilliant speech. Yeah. Europe has to be careful.
You guys think it got bad here during our election cycle and the censorship? This is the stuff that Germany's been engaging in.
Now, a story that emerged yesterday that I thought was perhaps pretty disturbing was that the president of Germany suggesting that maybe the AFD political party at some point would have to be banned. I wasn't quite sure whether what I was reading was true.
The German parliament here in Berlin has been debating proposals to ban the far-right Alternative for Germany party known as the AFD. The AFD is under surveillance by Germany's domestic intelligence agency for potentially posing a threat to democracy.
Huh. Does that rhetoric sound familiar to anybody?
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Although parts of the party have been officially classified as far-right extremist, it is predicted to perform strongly in national elections next month. According to opinion polls, it could finish as the second biggest party in the German parliament. But other parties say they will refuse to go into any governing coalition with the AFD in hopes of keeping it out of government.
So in this recent security conference, JD Vance stepped up and called them out.
The address accused mainstream European politicians of failing to control immigration and then eroding free speech by muzzling far-right anti-immigration parties.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within.
If you think JD Vance is right and more people, especially in Europe, need to listen to what he has to say, hit that like and subscribe button, maybe share the video. I appreciate you.
Now, I was struck that a former European commissioner went on television recently and sounded delighted that the Romanian government had just annulled an entire election.
Why was Romania's election annulled? Very interesting. Let's see. Romania's current president, Klaus Iohannis, declassified 5 intelligence files related to the campaign investigation. One document indicated that 25,000 pro-Georgescu, that's the guy who won the election that was annulled, TikTok accounts became highly active 2 weeks before the first round vote. Basically, the whole argument to cancel the election is he had preferential treatment on social media, just like in 2016 with Trump. And was any of it true back then, or did it turn out to be a fabrication by the Democrat Party?
He warned that if things don't go to plan, the very same thing could happen in Germany too. When we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard. We must do more than talk about democratic values, we must live them. The Cold War positioned defenders of democracy against much more tyrannical forces on this continent. And consider the side in that fight that censored dissidents, that closed churches, that canceled elections. Were they the good guys? Certainly not. And thank God they lost the Cold War. As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. This last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime.
Naturally, these corporatist elites didn't take the constructive criticism very well.
The chill in the room gave way to real anger. Germany's defense minister Boris Pistorius said comparing European governments to authoritarian regimes was just unacceptable. There has also been a furious reaction in the European media, too. The speech has been called vengeful, preachy, unkind, and above all, widening the rift between America and its allies and friends.
We're not going to say why it's unacceptable. We're not going to address the argument on its merits. We're not even going to discuss the similarities. We're just going to say it's unacceptable. How dare you?